is one glory of the sun, and another glory of the moon, and another glory of the stars. For one star differeth from another star in glory. And us? Where is our glory? Is it to be found only in our end, written down perhaps in the pages of history, open to varying interpretations, as if the lines and creases of our death mask could give, like a road map, a close approximation of this journey we call life? Life. Is there space even in our social forms to express the poetry, the sublime nature, the greatest potential of the human spirit? And if not, if there is no container for the poetic, then maybe, as a great poet once said, all of our social forms are evil.
Let me throw this out at you. If the living theater, as we said, we tried to destroy the divisions of life, we want a certain poetry of life, How, if everybody can be a poet just by expressing what it is they feel, is there a moment where we leave daily life behind and we just are in pure poetry? As somebody maybe said, to find the poetry in every moment. Is art life? Does life become art? Or rather, everything is art, therefore nothing is art, or everything is, you know what I mean?
No. No. Something is art. Begin to come from within, and that's hard. And that's why we've lost a lot of poetic form, but we've gained a lot with the free verse forms. What we've gained is that anybody with a poetic soul can do it.
They call this a mopping up operation.
But then again, the poetry's changing very much too. A lot of it's like an outcry. A lot of it's like a political statement, even if it's a sexual political statement, but it's like an outcry, rather than what's the greatness of poetry, which is the use of words in a higher form of communication.
people who all have the best intentions in the world.
Action now.
I'm alive!
But can we speak to ourselves poetically, you're saying? Is that...
About the poetic life, you know, and I think poetry is very important in the liberation of human beings, become masters of their thought processes through the language, because in order to think you have to be able to speak to yourself. And that's the king of poets celebrated. In some ways the king is forgotten about and the poet remains, you know. And politically, Shelley had said that poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. Right?
Because I was ethnic energy. Put it into the, you know what I mean.
Militants are said to be holed up in the south.
If it were a song, how would I sing that song?
No, something is art. And I think that there are a few highly developed people whose relationship to language is such that it'll come out poetry.
To me, hip-hop is political in the sense that it comes out of a community in need and that wasn't being served, and it comes into a community creating a space to be creative when there was no space.
When first she learns that she is not a boy. And sooner or later, it is borne in upon her that she is a girl.
It's just playing back that feeling of being helpless in the face of that situation. So we're playing back his feeling, Gary's feeling.
I mean, I'm for reading poetry. Obviously, that's my appeal, is to read it and to listen to poets. But not only to listen to poets rave out their insides, but who really understand the structure of the language.
The revolution will be videotaped.
Why can't we get to a level of poetic vision of life that we live some of the feelings, the ideas, the ideals that we find in poetry or great art? What's wrong with life?
It's my fault the world's fucked up.
What's wrong with life?
Nothing's wrong with life, but if you want to take that part of life, which is poetry, then you have to study poetry.
But you hear in Chopin that something is not right in life. You know, there's some great pain and suffering that inspires him to these great, wonderful feelings in his music. So something is not going right in life.
Nothing ever goes right in life. We are all faced with suffering and mortality and the brevity of life and the cruelty of the world around us. It's always that. The question is, can you make great art out of it? Or can you just bemoan it? Or can you ignore it and say, I'm going to have a good time? And fuck the fact that there's thousands of people suffering, or millions of people suffering. You can do that. Always an expression of human suffering or transcending the suffering. When two people love each other, it can only end in tragedy. And I thought, no, oh, yes. You know, there was a moment I wanted to negate that. I said, no, you can have a wonderful, no.
Yeah.
Because we're mortal. There is time because we are mortal. There is death because we are nothing. There is love because we are crazy and want to be happy forever.
Come on now, move. Being a white person doing hip hop is a complicated thing for me. This is the music that originates in African landscapes, now broadcast from mixtapes. I got a privilege to be a part of culture. Respect this is black music.
He stick around. He's a rap artist, MC, a wonderful poet. Works a lot with children in New York. There's a lot of wonderful teaching. But by night, he's Wonder Rapper. Soup MC. So you'll dig him. I'm really a guest every time I see him work. So bravo to you.
How is that for you to sort of follow, as it were, to put it in the vernacular, his footsteps?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's this. You know, my thinking about my father and it's been big on this trip because we're the first time really traveling together as fellow artists. It's both things. One, it's very inspiring, and I think I take a lot of cues from him, and he's been a big inspiration to me. Two, it's challenging. It's challenging because it's true there. I mean, I always say I'll never be able to outdo my father in terms of the wildness of his experience. I'll never be able to touch that.
Could begin to miss their train, baby. It'd be such a groove to be down at the train station.
I think I learned at a young age that art is a powerful way to deal with the world, to transform the world, to transform yourself, to navigate and negotiate an insane world that is constantly challenging and tearing us apart. And it's a way to put things back together in a different way for a moment. So I think that, I got a sense that really young.
I'm gonna follow up with a question from the poet's point of view. What's wrong with us?
With human beings?
Yeah.
That's a tough question.
So all love is tragic because it has an end.
Okay.
Because one wants it to be immortal, and we're not immortal.
For me, the role of the poet was really to create an analysis of one's emotions and the state of the world around you, and it was a way to report back, you know, in an emotional language.
But when you get to that point, looking at the world and the contradictions between the beauty and the ugliness, the love and the pain, and even our own personal pain. that we all have.
Yeah.
What is it that you think poetry could possibly do on a mass level, or I don't know why again? What is it about us that we live like this? And is it an emptiness in our soul that gets transmitted on a level political that we can't find the right forms to live in peace? What is it about the human soul?
And that's tragic. Life is tragic. Now the question of whether we can enjoy life or find the joy to transcend the suffering, that too has a lot to do with what poetry can give us.
Okay,
Poetry can overcome the suffering.
Nice. Okay, we're filling up more. Give me a quick soul song.
Okay. All right, soul song. So much of this world is so wrong. Caught between the right and the left. I try to find a step that gets caught in between my breath. My breath gets frozen. Trying to create a lyrical explosion. It's not about the chosen. It's about unchoosing and confusing and getting enthusiastic, spastic, bombastic, drastic, dramatic, chiropractic energy in the 21st century mentally with telepathy. Communicate and reach words that are magic. Opposite of tragic. Sometimes it's tragic. Sometimes it's emphatic. As I start to do it, it's like getting lost in the brain, which is the attic, pulling it up from inside. Thoughts of the guide, words connect me, select me, protect me, infect me, digest me, I digest them. We select them, connect them, and then we flow from the soul. Try to let go and have a little less control of the whole picture. So take the poetic elixir and feel the beautiful mixture.
Bisogna comandare la lingua e conoscere bene la lingua, il padrone ha 1000 parole. Per liberarsi bisogna chiarire e avere comando del linguaggio, e i poeti ci insegnano questo uso del linguaggio per dire la verità, e a volte in un modo obliquo.
Every poem should have a form that matches or is a counterpart of its theme. That is, the poem, the form of the poem, and what the poem is saying should be the same thing. But all great poems do it. Somehow, the form of the poem and what it's saying match.
Okay, this is a sound check.
Perché la politica è fatta anche di parole, bisogna usare la parola, e i poeti sono i maestri di questo.
When you have an impulse to write a poem, that is, you've just seen the train go away and your beloved is on it and it's never going to come back. And you have this feeling. At the moment that you have this feeling and you want to put it into words, you also have to find the form in which the train is going away and will never come back. In the form of the poem. And that's the trick of the poem, is to make the form be the idea. That is the idea in the form and not only in words, and not only in the concept, but in the structure.
Questo significa, sì, che i poeti possono introdurre nuove idee, nuovi pensieri, nuove esperienze che poi si diffondono nella società.
It's a great masterwork, the all an effort to reach across this suffering and to make it great and beautiful, to make a great love and a great suffering.
Un grande esempio di questo sono i Beat Poets, la prima generazione dei Beats, e loro hanno fatto una rivoluzione senza sangue, hanno trasformato la cultura e praticamente in Italia è molto apprezzato queste poesie. È la nostra voce e questa voce parla.
And poetry is a kind of a bridge between the levels of our incompatibility. The poetry is a way we can sometimes reach across, because we can, with the words and the form and the rhythms and the music of it and the ecstasy of it, overcome the Shrai, overcome the incompatibility, or at least feel that we can.
Power overwhelms air, choking, haunting, voices screaming, seeing the light, sun, fire, coming nearer. It gets hot, bodies burning. We were waiting.
And the yearning for life and the inevitability of death, the yearning for fulfillment and the inevitability of frustration is such a terrible contradiction that we use all of art, and poetry is one of the forms, to overcome this anguishing contradiction that won't go away.
As the sun gently caresses our cocks and cunts, humming a tune so beautiful that all the dead poets will come in their graves and forever be at peace. I'm on this thing. In death, we are in communion. Life. My eye. Your eye.
In the poem, you create your own universe. You create a reality that you can then say, hey, look at my reality.